Hello, everyone. Welcome back to EasyTalk English. We're really happy to have you here today, whether you're listening at home, on the bus, or during a short break at work. This is the place where we practice real English for real life, not perfect textbook English. So take a breath, relax, and just enjoy the conversation with us.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here with you again. Linda, I have to be honest. I almost didn't feel ready to record today. I've been stuck on something so small, but it's been taking all my energy. I keep thinking about it, fixing it, changing it, and somehow it still doesn't feel right.
That already sounds very familiar. Tell me what happened, because I'm pretty sure many listeners are going to recognize this feeling right away. Was it something big or something that should have been simple?
That's the problem. It should have been simple. I was writing a short email and working on a small presentation slide. Nothing important, but I kept rewriting the same sentence, changing words, adjusting the layout, and checking it again and again. Every time I thought it was done, my brain said, nope, not good enough yet.
I hear a big red flag already. When you spend a lot of time on small details and still don't feel satisfied, that's often a sign of perfectionism. You know the work is fine, but emotionally you can't let it go.
Exactly. Logically, I know it's okay, but emotionally, I feel uncomfortable sending it. I keep thinking, what if someone notices a mistake? Or what if this could be better? And suddenly, a 10-minute task becomes a 1-hour problem.
And you're definitely not alone. This happens to so many people, especially people who care, who want to do a good job. But the tricky part is that perfectionism often hides behind words like being responsible or trying my best.
That's so true. I even told myself, I'm just being careful. But honestly, I felt stressed, tired, and a little stuck. And then I realized this feeling is very similar to how many language learners feel before speaking English.
Yes, especially English learners. So many people think, I can't speak yet because my grammar isn't perfect, or I need more vocabulary first. But waiting for perfect English often means not speaking at all.
And that's why today's topic is so important. Perfectionism doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just quiet overthinking, delaying, and feeling pressure inside. You don't even realize it's happening.
Exactly. At EasyTalk English, we always say real English comes from real life, and real life is not perfect. Today's episode is about helping you understand perfectionism, recognize it in yourself, and learn how to move forward without waiting to be perfect.
So, if you've ever felt stuck, afraid to make mistakes, or tired from trying to do everything perfectly, this episode is for you. Stay with us because we're going to break this down in a simple, honest, and practical way.
So, Alex, before we talk about how to deal with it, I think we should slow down and answer a very simple question. What is perfectionism really? A lot of people use this word, but they don't always understand what it means.
That's a good place to start. And I want to say this clearly first. Perfectionism is not the same as wanting to do a good job. Wanting to do well is healthy and normal. It means you care about what you're doing.
Exactly. Doing your best, preparing well, and caring about quality are positive things. Perfectionism starts when doing well quietly turns into nothing is ever good enough, and that's where problems begin.
Yes, perfectionism usually comes with very high standards, sometimes impossible standards. You set a level that no human can realistically reach, and then you judge yourself for not reaching it. It's a losing game from the start.
Another clear sign is that you never feel satisfied. Even when you finish something, your brain immediately finds problems. You think, I could improve this, or maybe I should change that, instead of feeling done.
I feel that so strongly. I finish a task, but instead of relief, I feel doubt. I reopen the file, reread the message, or recheck the slide, even though nothing is actually wrong.
And perfectionism also shows up as fear. Some people are afraid to start because they think, what if I can't do this perfectly? Others are afraid to finish because finishing means being judged.
That's such an important point. Sometimes perfectionism doesn't look like hard work. It looks like delay. You wait for the perfect idea, the perfect time, or the perfect version of yourself.
We see this all the time in daily life. People change fonts again and again, rewrite the same sentence 10 times, or wait for the perfect moment to start learning English, applying for a job, or posting something online.
And the perfect moment almost never comes. So what happens? Nothing moves forward. Perfectionism feels like progress, but is often just overthinking. You feel busy, but you're not actually moving closer to your goal.
And that's the key problem. Perfectionism feels like progress, but it's often just overthinking. You feel busy, but you're not actually moving closer to your goal.
And for language learners, this is especially painful. People say, I'll speak when my English is better. But speaking is how your English gets better. Perfectionism keeps you silent.
So, let's remember this simple idea. Perfectionism is not about quality, it's about fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of judgment, and fear of not being enough.
And the sad part is, perfectionism doesn't protect you. It doesn't make your life easier. Most of the time, it just creates stress, delay, and frustration.
The good news is that once you understand what perfectionism really is, you can start noticing it in your own life. And when you notice it, you finally have the power to change how you respond to it. Now that we understand what perfectionism is, the next question is where it actually comes from. Most people don't wake up one day and choose to be perfectionists. It usually grows slowly from real-life experiences.
Yes, and for many people, it starts very early in childhood. School is often the first place where we learn that mistakes are bad and results matter more than effort. Grades become labels.
Exactly. When you're young, a number on a paper can feel like a judgment of who you are. If you get praise only when you get high scores, you start to believe that success equals value.
That was definitely my experience. In my family, school achievement was very important. Getting good grades wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. And anything less than excellent felt like failure.
So the message becomes very clear, even if no one says it directly. If I do well, I'm accepted. If I don't, I disappoint people. That's a heavy message for a child.
I remember bringing home a test score that was good, like a 90. Instead of celebration, the first question was, why not 100? That moment really stayed with me.
Those moments shape how we talk to ourselves later in life. The external voice slowly becomes an internal one. Even when no one is judging you anymore, you keep judging yourself.
Family expectations play a big role too. Sometimes parents don't mean to create pressure, but children often feel it very strongly. They want approval and love.
For me, comparison was a big part of it. I was often compared to my older sister. She was naturally good at school, very confident, very organized. I always felt one step behind.
That kind of comparison can really hurt. Even if parents don't say it directly, kids notice patterns. Who gets praise? Who gets attention? Who seems successful?
And then you start thinking, I need to be perfect to be noticed. You push yourself harder and harder, not because you love the work, but because you want to feel equal.
Another big source today is social media. We see other people's best moments all the time. Perfect photos, perfect careers, perfect bodies, perfect lives.
And we compare that highlight reel to our behind-the-scenes reality. We don't see their stress, mistakes, or doubts. We only see the finished result.
That comparison creates unrealistic standards. You start thinking everyone else has it together and you're the only one struggling. So you push yourself even more.
Workplace culture can also reinforce perfectionism. Many jobs reward people who never rest, who always go the extra mile, who never say no.
At first, perfectionism looks like dedication, but over time, it turns into burnout. You feel like you're never doing enough, no matter how much you give.
The important thing to remember is this. Perfectionism is usually learned. It's not something you're born with. It's a response to pressure, comparison, and fear.
And that's actually hopeful, because if perfectionism was learned, it can also be unlearned. You're not broken. You adapt it to your environment.
Understanding where perfectionism comes from helps us stop blaming ourselves. Instead of thinking, what's wrong with me, we can ask, what shaped me this way?
And once you see the pattern, you can start choosing differently. You can build a new relationship with mistakes, effort, and self-worth, one that's much healthier.
Now let's talk about what perfectionism actually does to our lives, because it's not just an idea in our heads, it shows up in very real situations and slowly starts to hurt us.
Yeah, and I want to share a personal story here because this was a big wake-up call for me. A few years ago, I was working on a small app project that I was really excited about.
I remember this. You talked about it all the time, and you put so much energy into it. At first, it sounded like a passion project.
It was. The app actually worked pretty well, and people around me kept saying, just launch it, but I couldn't. I kept telling myself it wasn't ready yet.
And the reasons were always very small details, right? Things that most users probably wouldn't even notice.
Exactly. I was stuck on things like the app icon, the colors, the wording of tiny buttons. I told myself, if this isn't perfect, people would judge it.
So instead of moving forward, you stayed in the same place, polishing and fixing things that didn't really change the core value.
Yes, and the longer I waited, the worse it got. I felt stressed all the time. I had trouble sleeping, my shoulders were always tense, and I kept thinking about the app even when I wasn't working.
That's such an important point. Perfectionism doesn't just delay action, it follows you everywhere mentally.
In the end, I delayed the launch for months. By the time I finally released it, I was exhausted and honestly disappointed in myself. Not because the app failed, but because I didn't trust myself.
That's powerful. Perfectionism made you believe that waiting was safer than trying, but the waiting actually caused more damage.
Exactly. It didn't protect me from failure. It just replaced failure with anxiety and burnout. And looking back, I learned nothing during that waiting time.
I can really relate to that, especially from my teaching experience. When I first started teaching, I thought preparation was the key to confidence.
Which makes sense. Being prepared sounds like a good thing.
It does, but I took it too far. I planned every word I would say. I practiced lessons over and over. I wanted every class to be perfect.
So you were over-preparing instead of just preparing.
Exactly. During the lessons, I wasn't really present with my students. I was focused on remembering the perfect plan in my head instead of listening to them.
That must have created a kind of distance, even if your lesson was technically good.
Yes, and that's what I realized later. The classes felt stiff. Students didn't ask many questions, and I felt strangely disconnected, even though I was doing everything right.
So perfectionism didn't make you a better teacher. It actually took away the human connection.
Exactly. One day, I made a mistake in class and laughed about it. The students relaxed immediately. That's when I understood something important.
That being real builds trust more than being perfect ever could.
Yes, when I let go of being perfect, I became more open, more flexible, and honestly, more confident. Perfectionism had been draining my energy.
And that's the key message here. Perfectionism looks like protection, but it actually exhausts you. It delays growth, hurts your health, and blocks real connection.
You don't need to be perfect to be respected, understood, or valued. You need to be present, honest, and willing to try.
Perfectionism doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. And once you see that clearly, it becomes much easier to start letting it go.
Now that we've talked about how perfectionism hurts us, the big question is how we actually deal with it in real life. Not theory, not motivation quotes, but things you can do today.
Yes, because telling someone just stop being a perfectionist never works. What helped me was learning small, practical steps that slowly changed how I work.
The first step is noticing the perfectionist voice in your head. That voice says things like, "It's not ready yet," or "You should fix it one more time."
For me, that voice sounds very reasonable, like it's trying to help. But now I pause and say, okay, that's my perfectionism talking, not a real problem.
That pause is powerful. Once you can name the voice, you don't have to obey it automatically.
The second step is defining good enough before you start. This changed everything for me.
Yes, instead of starting with a blurry goal like, "I'll finish when it's perfect," you decide clearly what done looks like.
For example, I tell myself,
This presentation is good enough if it has 5 clear points and fits in 10 minutes. When I reach that, I stop.
Even if your brain says, but you could make it better, you already made the decision earlier. That protects you from endless editing.
The next step is using time limits instead of quality obsession. This is very practical and a little uncomfortable at first.
Instead of saying, I'll work on this until it's perfect, you say, I'll work on this for 1 hour.
When the time is up, I stop, even if it feels unfinished. Most of the time, I realize the work is actually more than good enough.
Time limits force you to focus on what really matters. Perfectionism loves unlimited time.
Another important step is celebrating completion, not perfection. This sounds simple, but it's very hard for perfectionists.
Yes, we often finish something and immediately see what's wrong with it. Instead, try saying, I finished this, and that matters.
I started doing this with small tasks, like sending an email without rereading it 5 times. I tell myself, done is a win.
That small celebration slowly trains your brain to feel safe with completion.
Another helpful step is zooming out. Ask yourself, will anyone notice this mistake the way I do?
Most of the time, the answer is no. Other people see the whole picture, not the tiny details you're obsessing over.
When I think about my app icon story, almost nobody cared about the details I spent weeks on. That was very humbling.
The final step is adopting a growth mindset. This is especially important for language learners.
A growth mindset means mistakes are information, not failure. Every mistake shows you what to work on next.
When I stopped trying to teach perfect classes and allowed mistakes, I learned faster and connected better with my students.
For me, once I accepted that imperfect work helps me learn, I became braver, I launched faster, and improved through feedback.
Perfectionism wants you to wait. Growth mindset wants you to move.
And the truth is, you don't overcome perfectionism in one day. You practice these steps again and again.
But every time you choose good enough, you take back a little freedom.
And over time, that freedom feels much better than being perfect ever did.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about something deeper than tips and strategies. It's about the feeling behind perfectionism and what really matters in real life.
Yes, because perfectionism isn't just about work or study. It affects how we connect with people and how we see ourselves.
For a long time, I thought being perfect would help me connect better. I thought if my English, my teaching, or my ideas were perfect, people would respect me more.
I felt the same. I believed that if I didn't sound smart enough or fluent enough, it was better to stay quiet.
But real connection doesn't come from perfection. It comes from honesty and presence.
Exactly. When someone speaks imperfect English but tries to share their thoughts, I feel closer to them than someone who says nothing at all.
This is so important for language learners. Imperfect English is still English. Silence teaches you nothing.
I remember when I was learning Japanese, I made so many mistakes that sometimes people laughed, not in a mean way, but in surprise.
And how did that feel?
At first, it was embarrassing, but those moments helped me remember the words and sounds much better. The mistakes stayed with me.
That's growth. Mistakes are uncomfortable, but they're also very alive.
When I stopped trying to sound perfect, conversations became easier. People helped me, corrected me kindly, and shared more.
The same thing happened to me with English teaching. When I allowed myself to say, sorry, let me explain that again, students relaxed.
Because you were human.
Yes, and humans connect with humans, not with perfect machines.
There's something beautiful about imperfection. A small pause, a wrong word, a nervous laugh. These things make conversations real.
Think about your favorite people. Are they perfect? Or do you love them because they are real, warm, and sometimes messy?
Definitely the second one. The moments I remember most are never perfect moments.
Exactly. And learning English is the same. Progress happens when you speak, not when you wait.
I like to think of progress as movement. Even slow movement is still better than standing still.
Perfectionism wants you to wait until you're ready. Growth asks you to start where you are.
And when you look back, you don't remember every mistake. You remember that you tried.
That's why we always say at EasyTalk English, real English comes from real life.
Real life is not polished. It's full of pauses, restarts, and small wins.
If you're listening right now and thinking, my English is not good enough, I want you to hear this clearly.
Your English is good enough to start, and starting is how it gets better.
Progress is not loud. Sometimes it's just one sentence spoken with courage.
And that one sentence matters more than waiting for the perfect moment that never comes.
So today, choose connection over perfection.
Choose progress over silence.
Because imperfect English spoken today is far more powerful than perfect English never spoken.
And that's where real growth begins.
Before we finish today, let's take a moment to review some key words from this episode. These words will help you talk about perfectionism and your feelings in simple, real English.
Yes, and remember, you don't need to use big or complicated words. Simple English is more than enough.
Our first word is perfect. Perfect means having no mistakes or problems. For example, I don't need my English to be perfect to start speaking.
The next word is flaw. A flaw is a small mistake or weakness. You can say, everyone has flaws and that's normal.
The third word is standard. A standard is the level you expect from yourself. For example, my standards are sometimes too high.
Next is pressure. Pressure is the stress you feel when you think you must do everything well. You might say, I feel a lot of pressure when I speak English.
The fifth word is accept. Accept means to agree with something or to allow it. For example, I'm learning to accept my mistakes.
And the last word is enough. Enough means sufficient, not too much and not too little. You can say, my English is good enough to communicate.
Great job! These 6 words are very useful for daily conversations and for talking about your learning journey.
Now it's time for our question of the day. This is your chance to practice English with us.
Here's the question. Do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
And how does perfectionism affect your life or your English learning?
You can answer with simple sentences. For example, yes, I'm a perfectionist, and I feel pressure when I speak English.
Or, I'm learning to accept my flaws and speak even when my English is not perfect.
Please leave your answer in the comments. Writing a comment is great English practice.
If today's episode felt relatable, don't forget to give this video a like.
And subscribe to EasyTalk English to keep learning real English for real life.
We love reading your comments and learning from your experiences.
Thank you for spending this time with us today.
Remember, real English comes from real life.
And good enough is often more than enough.